Hello, you're watching movie Snapshot scenes, and this is the summary of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Dark times had fallen upon both the Wizarding and Muggle worlds. The return of Lord Voldemort was no longer a secret. Death Eaters attacked openly, destroying bridges, kidnapping people, and spreading fear. Even the once untouchable Diagon Alley was no longer safe, with dark figures lurking in the shadows. Meanwhile, Severus Snape met with Narcissa Malfoy and Bellatrix Lestrange in a hidden home. Narcissa, desperate, pleaded for Snape's help. Her son, Draco Malfoy, had been given a dangerous mission by Voldemort himself. Snape made an unbreakable vow, promising to protect Draco and, if necessary, complete his task. Far from this darkness, Harry Potter was spending the summer in a quiet cafe, trying to enjoy a moment of normal life. However, his peace didn't last long. Albus Dumbledore suddenly appeared, ready to take him on an important mission. Together, they traveled to a small village, where they met an old friend, Horace Slughorn. Slughorn, a former potions master at Hogwarts, had been in hiding. Fearing the Death Eaters, Dumbledore wanted him to return to Hogwarts, but Slughorn was hesitant. However, once he realized that Harry Potter himself was there, his curiosity grew. Slughorn had always valued famous and talented students, and the idea of having Harry in his classroom intrigued him. After some persuasion, he agreed to return. Upon arriving at the Burrow, Harry reunited with Ron and Hermione. However, he couldn't ignore the fact that Ginny Weasley was growing closer to Dean Thomas, stirring feelings he didn't quite understand. As the new school year began, Harry noticed a change in Draco Malfoy. He was secretive, distant, and constantly sneaking off. One day, Harry followed him to Borgin and Burke's, a dark shop in Knockturn Alley. Inside, Draco seemed interested in a mysterious cabinet. Harry became convinced that Malfoy was now a Death Eater, though Ron and Hermione weren't so sure. Back at Hogwarts, Slughorn immediately took a liking to Harry, offering him a mysterious old potions book. Inside, the book contained handwritten notes and powerful spells, signed by someone called the Half-Blood Prince. Little did Harry know, this book would lead him closer to Voldemort's greatest secret, and to a loss he could never have imagined. As the school year progressed, Harry Potter quickly realized that his new potions book was unlike any other. The handwritten notes inside contained improved potion instructions and powerful spells, some of which were not even taught at Hogwarts. With the help of the book, Harry excelled in Professor Slughorn's class, impressing everyone, including Slughorn himself. As a reward, Slughorn gifted him a small vial of Felix Felicis, a rare potion known as liquid luck, which granted temporary good fortune to whoever drank it. Meanwhile, Dumbledore had begun private lessons with Harry, showing him memories of Tom, Riddle's past. Through these visions, Harry learned how Riddle, later known as Voldemort, had been a highly intelligent but deeply manipulative orphan. He saw how young Riddle charmed his teachers at Hogwarts while secretly researching dark magic. One memory stood out, the day Tom Riddle visited Horace Slughorn as a student. In it, he asked the professor about Horcruxes, a forbidden form of magic that allowed a wizard to split their soul by committing murder, making them nearly immortal. However, the memory was tampered with, and Slughorn's answer was missing. Dumbledore explained that Voldemort had indeed created Horcruxes, and if they wanted to defeat him, they had to find and destroy them. But without the full memory, they couldn't be sure how many Horcruxes existed. Dumbledore tasked Harry with retrieving the real memory from Slughorn. Meanwhile, Draco Malfoy became even more secretive, often disappearing and looking increasingly stressed. Harry was convinced that Draco was working for Voldemort, but no one believed him, not even Ron or Hermione. At the same time, romantic tensions grew among the students. Hermione was furious when Ron began dating Lavender Brown, while Harry struggled with his growing feelings for Ginny Weasley. especially since she was still with Dean Thomas. As the mystery of the half-blood prince deepened, Harry couldn't shake the feeling that darkness was closing in. The war was no longer coming, it was already here. As winter settled over Hogwarts, tensions continued to rise. Harry Potter remained determined to uncover Draco Malfoy's secret, but he had no proof. Draco was constantly sneaking off, looking more pale and anxious with each passing day. Meanwhile, Professor Slughorn grew fond of Harry, frequently inviting him to Slug Club gatherings. However, despite his friendly nature, Slughorn still refused to share the memory that Dumbledore desperately needed. Harry knew he had to find a way to get it. At the same time, Ron Weasley's new relationship with Lavender Brown caused chaos. Hermione was clearly jealous, but she refused to admit it. When Ron carelessly mocked her feelings, she stormed out in tears. To make matters worse, at one of Slughorn's parties, Cormac McLaggen aggressively flirted with Hermione, making the situation even more complicated. However, everything changed when Ron was poisoned. While celebrating his birthday, he drank a bottle of mead meant for Dumbledore, and within seconds he collapsed, struggling to breathe. Harry acted quickly, using a bezoar to counteract the poison, something he had learned from the half-blood Prince's book. Ron survived, but the attack confirmed what Harry already feared. Someone was trying to kill Dumbledore. Even more suspicious, Draco Malfoy seemed even more nervous, and Harry was certain he was involved. During one of their lessons, Dumbledore showed Harry another memory, this time about Tom Riddle's obsession with trophies and artifacts. Harry learned that Voldemort had hidden his Horcruxes in objects of great significance, including Helga Hufflepuff's cup and Salazar Slytherin's locket. But the most important memory, Slughorn's conversation with Riddle about Horcruxes, was still missing. Realizing he needed to act, Harry took out the small vial of Felix Felicis, the liquid luck. Drinking the shimmering potion, he instantly felt confident, as if everything would go his way. Following an instinct, he found Slughorn and, in his relaxed state, convinced him to give up the real memory. When Harry brought it to Dumbledore, the truth was revealed. Voldemort had created not one, but 7 Horcruxes. Destroying them was the only way to defeat him, and Dumbledore had already found one of them. The real battle was about to begin. With Slughorn's memory finally recovered, Dumbledore and Harry now understood the true extent of Voldemort's dark magic. He had split his soul into 7 pieces, hiding them inside powerful objects, Horcruxes, to ensure his immortality. 2 had already been destroyed, Tom Riddle's diary and Marvolo Gaunt's ring. Dumbledore had discovered the ring and destroyed it, but not without consequences. It had cursed his hand, leaving it blackened and lifeless. Now, Dumbledore believed he had found the location of another Horcrux, Salazar Slytherin's locket, hidden inside a cave where Tom Riddle had once tormented 2 orphans as a child. Determined, Dumbledore told Harry to be ready. Soon, they would leave Hogwarts to retrieve it. Meanwhile, Harry's suspicions about Draco Malfoy continued to grow. He saw Malfoy disappear into the Room of Requirement multiple times, and one night, he followed him. When Malfoy entered the bathroom, Harry confronted him. Furious and overwhelmed, Draco pulled out his wand and attacked. In the heat of the moment, Harry instinctively used a spell from the Half-Blood Prince's book, Sectum Sempra. A powerful slash tore through Draco's chest, leaving him bleeding and gasping for breath. Horrified by what he had done, Harry watched as Snape arrived just in time to heal Draco. Snape, angrier than ever, demanded to know where Harry had learned the curse. Harry realized he had gone too far. After the incident, Ginny Weasley convinced Harry to hide the Half-Blood Prince's book inside the Room of Requirement. As they stood close together in the secret room, Harry finally gave in to his feelings and kissed Ginny. Despite this brief moment of happiness, darkness loomed. That evening, Dumbledore told Harry it was time. The 2 left Hogwarts, traveling far to the rocky cliffs of the Horcrux cave. Inside, they found a black lake filled with inferi, ghastly, reanimated corpses. At the center of the cave was a stone basin, holding Slytherin's locket. But retrieving it came with a terrible price. To get the locket, Dumbledore had to drink a cursed potion. Harry watched in horror as the strongest wizard he knew grew weaker with every sip, his body trembling, his voice pleading for it to stop. But they had no choice. Harry Potter could only watch in horror as Dumbledore drank the cursed potion from the stone basin. With every sip, Dumbledore weakened, his hands shaking, his voice filled with pain. He pleaded for it to stop, crying out as if reliving a terrible memory. But Harry knew there was no other way. They had to retrieve Slytherin's locket, the Horcrux hidden beneath the potion. Finally, after forcing down the last drop, Dumbledore collapsed. His body was frail, his breath shallow. Harry quickly scooped up the locket, but before they could leave, the water around them began to stir. The inferi, pale, lifeless bodies emerged from the lake, their cold hands grabbing at Harry and dragging him under. Just as darkness was closing in, a bright ring of fire erupted around them. Dumbledore had summoned a powerful flame, driving the creatures back. Though weak, he managed to apparate them back to Hogsmeade, where they could see a terrifying sight. Above Hogwarts, the dark mark, Voldemort's symbol, glowed in the night sky. Ignoring his exhaustion, Dumbledore grabbed Harry's arm and whispered, "Hide. Do not interfere. No matter what happens." They rushed back to the astronomy tower, where Draco Malfoy was already waiting, his wand raised, his face pale with fear. The moment he had been dreading had arrived. He had been ordered by Voldemort to kill Dumbledore. But Malfoy hesitated. His hands trembled, his voice wavered. He had spent the year repairing the Vanishing Cabinet, allowing Death Eaters to enter Hogwarts. He had planned every step. And yet, standing before Dumbledore, he couldn't do it. Dumbledore, calm and knowing, spoke gently. "You are not a killer, Draco." Then, Severus Snape arrived. Harry, frozen beneath his invisibility cloak, watched in horror. He wanted to move, to fight, but he remembered Dumbledore's words. He stayed hidden. Dumbledore looked at Snape, his voice barely above a whisper. "Severus, please." With a cold, unreadable expression, Snape raised his wand. Avada Kedavra. A jet of green light struck Dumbledore. Time seemed to slow as he was lifted into the air, then fell from the tower, his body lifeless. Below, the students of Hogwarts gasped in shock. The greatest wizard of their time was gone. Harry felt rage, grief, and disbelief as he turned his gaze to Snape, who had just committed the ultimate betrayal. Harry Potter had never felt such rage. Dumbledore was dead, murdered before his eyes by Severus Snape. Ignoring everything else, Harry broke free from his hiding place and ran after him, determined to make Snape pay. Outside, chaos consumed Hogwarts. Death Eaters stormed through the castle, setting fires, blasting spells, and spreading destruction. Students and members of the Order of the Phoenix fought back. But with Dumbledore gone, the battle was already lost. Harry spotted Snape and Draco Malfoy fleeing toward the school grounds. Fueled by grief and fury, he chased them, raising his wand and casting the first spell that came to mind. Sectum Sempra! Snape blocked it effortlessly. Without hesitation, he turned and disarmed Harry with a flick of his wand. "No, Potter," he said coldly. "You dare use my own spells against me?" For a brief moment, Harry froze in shock. Snape was the half-blood prince. The entire time he had been using a book filled with Snape's own handwritten notes and spells. Before Harry could react, Snape hit him with a non-verbal curse, throwing him to the ground. "You have to mean it, Potter," Snape sneered. "You have to really want to cause pain." But before Harry could get back up, Snape and the Death Eaters disappeared into the night, taking Draco with them. Hogwarts was left in ruins. The Stark Sea. Mark still hung in the sky. Professors and students gathered in silence around Dumbledore's lifeless body. A sense of despair fell over them all. Their leader, their protector, was gone. Later, in Dumbledore's office, Harry examined the locket they had retrieved. But when he opened it, his stomach dropped. It wasn't a Horcrux at all. Inside was a note signed by someone named R.A.B., who had already stolen the real Horcrux. With the truth weighing heavily on him, Harry made a decision. He would not return to Hogwarts next year. He would not rest until he found and destroyed all of Voldemort's Horcruxes. As he stood by Dumbledore's white tomb, Harry told Ron and Hermione his plan. Without hesitation, they vowed to stand by his side. The real war had begun. But this time, Harry wouldn't fight alone.